You might not believe it, but it's true. History can fit in the palm of your hand. And the best example of that? A simple little coin, a penny. It's the coin most people overlook, tossed aside, lost in couch cushions, forgotten in old jars. But what if I told you this tiny coin might be hiding some incredible secrets and serious value? Today, we're diving deep into the story of the 1960 Lincoln penny. But before we do, let's talk about why coin collecting might be the most profitable hobby you've never considered. Coin collecting, or numismatics, isn't just a hobby, it's a gateway to treasure hunting. With the right knowledge, you could be holding onto a fortune without even knowing it. Let's look at a few coins that turn everyday people into millionaires. First up, the 1943 bronze Lincoln cent. While most pennies that year were made from steel due to wartime metal shortages, a few were mistakenly minted in bronze. If you find one, it could be worth up to $1.7 million. Next, here's a story that really blows people's minds. In 2022, a 1932 Washington quarter, the first year it was ever minted, sold at auction for $500,000. These aren't myths. They're real coins, real auctions, and real people who struck gold, not in the ground, but in their pockets. Now back to the star of today's video, the 1960 Lincoln cent. 1960 was a special year for the penny. Two versions were released, the small date and the large date. It might not sound like a big difference, but to collectors, it means everything. In the small date version, the numbers are tighter and shorter, especially the 6 and the 0. In the large date, they're taller and more spread out. If you've got the Philadelphia small date penny in great condition, you're holding a seriously rare find. Let's decode the mint marks. Look below the date. If there's a small D, that means it was minted in Denver. No letter? That's from Philadelphia. Why does this matter? Because some combinations, like a 1960 small date from Philadelphia, are far rarer than others. And rarity drives up value. There are also error pennies to watch for, like doubled dies, where the design appears twice, and repunched mint marks, where the mint letter looks blurry or doubled. These little mistakes can mean big money. Even the date itself can unlock a coin's story. Some years saw design changes, composition shifts, or unusual events that make certain dates extra collectible. And as for the penny's future? Well, it's uncertain. Some lawmakers say it costs more to make than it's worth. If they stop minting it, every existing penny becomes a piece of history, and likely a more valuable collectible. So, do you have a 1960 penny sitting in a jar or drawer? If it's a small date variety, in great condition, or features a mint error, it could be worth as much as $74,000. That's right, $74,000, a coin worth just 1 cent. Could be your hidden fortune. Check your change. Dig through those drawers. Because treasure doesn't always sparkle, sometimes it's copper brown, marked 1960, and waiting to change your life. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications for more rare coin stories. Number 2. In your pocket, in your car's cup holder, even hiding under your couch, there could be a penny worth far more than just 1 cent. It's easy to overlook, right? A little copper coin most people toss in a jar or drop without a second thought. But if you've got a sharp eye and a bit of knowledge, that same penny could unlock a forgotten chapter of American history, and maybe even a small fortune. Let's rewind the clock, back to the origins of the penny. The United States 1-cent coin has been with us since 1793. And while it's changed in size, weight, and metal over the centuries, its role in American life has remained constant. It's the coin we learned to count with, the one we flipped for luck, and the one that's witnessed more American history than most of us ever will. Then, in 1909, everything changed. That was the year Abraham Lincoln's profile replaced the classic Liberty design, the first time a real person appeared on U.S. currency. It was a tribute for Lincoln's 100th birthday, and it turned the humble penny into a symbol of freedom, resilience, and the American story. Over the decades, the Lincoln penny evolved. In 1959, the reverse changed from wheat stalks to the Lincoln Memorial. And by 1982, the metal changed too, from solid copper to copper-plated zinc. But nestled in this timeline is one of the most talked about years in numismatics, 1974. Why? Because in 1974, the US Mint made an unusual move, one that still sparks debate and excitement among collectors today. They experimented with a penny made entirely out of aluminum. Why aluminum? Because copper prices were rising, and the government needed a cheaper alternative. So over 1 million aluminum pennies were struck as test coins. But here's the twist. Before they could be released into circulation, the idea was scrapped. Congress never approved the aluminum penny. Almost all were recalled and destroyed. Almost all, but not every single one. A few escaped destruction, and today, they're considered ultra-rare, controversial, and priceless to collectors. Owning one isn't just owning a coin, it's owning a forbidden piece of American mint history. Let's talk mint marks, those tiny letters that reveal where a coin was born. On the 1974 penny, the mint mark can be found just below the date on the obverse, right under Lincoln's portrait. If there's no letter, it was minted in Philadelphia. A small d means it came from Denver. And if you spot an s, it was struck in San Francisco. Now, most 1974 pennies came from Philadelphia and Denver, making those versions common. But a 1974 S, especially in proof condition, is something to take seriously. The San Francisco Mint specialized in making pristine coins for collectors, and these coins, especially if flawless, are worth much more than their face value. Beyond mint marks, there are rare varieties and errors that could turn an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. Watch out for doubled dies, where parts of the design, like the words, Liberty, or In God We Trust, appear slightly doubled. It's a subtle mistake, but collectors love them. Another rarity is the off-center strike, where the coin wasn't properly aligned during minting. The more off-center it is, without losing the date, the more valuable it becomes. Then there's the repunched mint mark, where the mint letter looks stamped more than once. These were fairly common errors in the 70s, but today, they're gold mines for sharp-eyed collectors. Even the date itself holds power. Some years, like 1974, are wrapped in mystery and speculation. That year tells us we're looking at the height of the aluminum penny experiment, a time when America was on the verge of a major currency shift that never came to be. If you're lucky enough to spot a coin from that period with unusual metal tone or weight, don't spend it, study it. And what about the future of the penny? For years, lawmakers have debated whether the penny is still necessary. After all, it costs more to produce than it's worth. But with that debate comes a new reality. If the penny ever disappears, every one of them becomes instantly more collectible. No longer just a coin, it becomes a relic, a memory of a time when 1 cent meant something. So, what should you do now? Take a moment. Grab that jar of change. Start looking, because among the thousands of ordinary coins, there might be one extraordinary penny, one that tells a story, one that survived a recall, or one that holds a rare minting error. And if that coin happens to be a rare 1974 penny, it could be worth anywhere from $4,370 to as much as $60,000. That's right, 60,000. For a coin you might already own, a coin people forget, overlook, or leave behind, just might be the one that changes everything. So keep searching. Keep learning. And always pay attention to the pennies, because sometimes history hides in plain sight. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications for more rare coin stories just like this one. Number 3. It's the smallest coin in American currency. Light, copper-colored, and often forgotten. But what if I told you that a penny from 1967 might be one of the most underrated treasures in your change jar? Welcome to the story of the 1967 Lincoln cent, a coin that most people never think twice about, but collectors know better. Before we talk about rare varieties, hidden details, and secret values, let's first appreciate the incredible journey of the American penny. This coin has been around since 1793, over 2 centuries of American stories pressed into copper and zinc. But it wasn't until 1909 that the penny gained a face. Abraham Lincoln, the 16th President of the United States, became the first real person to appear on a U.S. coin. That made the penny more than money. It became a symbol, a tribute to honesty, leadership, and freedom. From the wheat ears on the reverse to the Lincoln Memorial introduced in 1959, the design of the penny has changed with the times, just like the country it represents. But through wars, recessions, and revolutions in technology, one thing has remained the same: the penny still matters. Fast forward to 1967, a time of national change and uncertainty. America was deep in the Vietnam War. Protests surged, music changed the culture, and the U.S. Mint was trying to solve a growing problem: the coin shortage. In the mid-60s, Americans were hoarding silver coins. The government needed to pump out more coins quickly, so quickly, in fact, that in 1965, 1966, and 1967, the Mint decided to skip one detail that collectors rely on: the mint mark. That's right, no mint marks were struck on coins during these years. This was done to discourage coin hoarding and prevent confusion about which coins were more valuable based on where they came from. So if you're looking at a 1967 penny and wondering where it was made, Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, you won't find a clue on the coin itself. But even without a mint mark, these pennies hold value. Some were struck with better quality than others, and a few even escaped with errors that make collectors' eyes light up. Let's talk about those rare varieties. There are a few special versions of the 1967 penny that collectors hunt for. Double dies are one. Look closely at the lettering, especially "In God We Trust" or "Liberty." If it looks like the letters are shadowed or doubled, you might have something special. Then there's the off-center strike. When a penny is not perfectly aligned during minting, the result is a lopsided coin, and the more off-center it is, the more it could be worth, especially if the date is still visible. Die cracks, cuds, and strike-throughs, all of these minting flaws are gold to collectors. Why? Because they're rare. And in the world of coins, rare equals valuable. Now let's look at the date, 1967. It's more than just a number. It places the coin at a key moment in U.S. coin history. A time of policy change, mass production, and public mistrust in the value of currency. Some 1967 pennies are made from slightly different planchets, especially transitional blanks left over from earlier years. And these are exactly the kinds of details that excite serious numismatists. Even though there were millions of 1967 pennies minted, only a few have survived in mint state condition. Fewer still with the kinds of errors or details that push their value into the thousands. Now, let's turn toward the future of the penny. For years now, the penny has been under fire. It costs more to make than it's worth. Critics argue it should be eliminated entirely. But others argue the penny is too deeply embedded in American culture to disappear. After all, it's the coin we hand to kids, the one we press into souvenirs at museums, the one that honors Abraham Lincoln, a president who shaped a nation. If the penny is ever discontinued, these everyday coins could suddenly become collector's items. Their value will rise. Their story, cemented in history. So what about the 1967 penny in your hand right now? Is it just a coin? Or is it a hidden relic from a pivotal time in American history? If you're holding a rare error, a flawless uncirculated specimen, or a high-grade proof version, you could be looking at a value between $6,800, all the way up to $74,000. That's right, a coin worth just 1 cent could be worth $74,000, so don't ignore your pennies. Look closely. Every detail matters. Because sometimes, the smallest coins hold the biggest surprises. Like, share, and subscribe if you want to uncover more rare coins hiding in your pocket change. Number 4. You've probably seen it 1,000 times. A simple copper penny with the year 1977 stamped on it. You might even pass it up without thinking. But what if I told you this tiny coin might be worth far more than 1 cent? In fact, some of these 1977 Lincoln cents have become hidden treasures for collectors across the country. Let's take a journey through time to discover why this unassuming penny might be worth a second, and maybe even a third. Look, the story of the penny begins more than 230 years ago. It was the very first coin authorized by the United States government. Since 1793, the 1 cent piece has evolved with the nation, changing faces, shapes, metals, and meanings, but in 1909, everything changed. That was the year Abraham Lincoln appeared on the penny to honor his 100th birthday. He was the first real historical figure ever featured on an American coin, and since then, Lincoln's image has become one of the most enduring symbols in American currency. The design saw another major shift in 1959, when the Lincoln Memorial replaced the wheat ears on the reverse. This design would carry the penny all the way through the 1970s, including that now mysterious year of 1977. But what makes a 1977 penny special? It's not just age. It's not just rarity. It's the details, the kind that only sharp-eyed collectors know to look for. Let's decode some of the clues. Look just beneath the date. You might see a tiny letter, or you might see nothing at all. That's the mint mark, a small but crucial symbol that tells us where the coin was made. In 1977, the United States Mint was producing pennies in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Coins struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark. Those from Denver are marked with a small d, and coins from San Francisco, most commonly proof coins, have an S. To a casual eye, it might seem like just a letter. But to a collector, it can mean the difference between a common coin and a rare, valuable piece of history. Some mint marks are misaligned. Some are doubled. And some have even been punched over by mistake. These small flaws can raise the value of a coin dramatically, and that's just the start. Now, let's talk about identifying rare 1977 pennies. What you're looking for are die errors, mistakes made during the minting process. Some 1977 pennies have doubled dies, where the design was stamped twice, slightly off, creating a ghost-like doubling of the letters or numbers. Liberty, in God we trust, or even the date itself might show signs of doubling. There are also off-center strikes, where the image is printed too far to one side. And die cracks, raised lines that snake across the surface due to a damaged die. These are not damage after minting. These are minting errors that make a coin more desirable. Even more fascinating are struck-through errors, where foreign objects, like bits of wire or cloth, got between the die and the planchet, leaving strange and unique impressions. Each one is like a fingerprint, one of a kind, and then there's the date itself, 1977. It might seem ordinary. But a date on a coin is more than a timestamp. It places that coin in a unique moment in American economic and cultural history. In 1977, inflation was high. The price of copper was rising. In fact, pennies minted in this era were made of 95% copper, making them not only collectible but also potentially more valuable simply because of their metal content. But the date also helps collectors identify transitional coins, pieces accidentally struck on planchets from a previous or future year. These errors are incredibly rare, but they exist, and when tied to the 1977 date, they become immensely valuable. Now we ask, what does the future hold for the penny? Every few years, the debate reappears: should the penny be retired? Should we stop producing a coin that costs more to make than it's worth? But here's the truth: as long as the penny exists, collectors will continue to search for that next rare gem. And if the penny ever disappears from circulation, its value will only rise. Think about it. This tiny coin has honored a president, survived world wars, seen the moon landing, and now it rests quietly in drawers and pockets across the country, waiting for someone to notice its story. And yes, some of those stories are worth big money, because if you happen to come across one of those rare era coins, high-grade mint state examples, or scarce proof strikes from 1977, you could be holding something worth anywhere from $12,000 all the way up to $54,000. That's right. 1 cent, that could be worth $54,000, so check your change. Look again. That 1977 penny in your hand might not be so ordinary after all. If you enjoyed the history, mystery, and hunt for hidden treasure, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Because in the world of coin collecting, every penny counts, and every coin has a story to tell. Number 5. It's easy to overlook a penny. It's the smallest coin in your pocket, the one people drop and never bother to pick up. But every now and then, one of those pennies tells a much bigger story. And today, we're diving deep into the world of the 1975 Lincoln cent, a coin that may look ordinary at first glance, but for collectors, it can be pure treasure. Let's start with the rich and often overlooked history of the humble penny. The American 1-cent coin has been part of our nation's story since the very beginning. First struck in 1793, the penny was once as large as a modern-day half-dollar and made entirely of copper. But over time, it evolved, shrinking in size, changing in composition, and reflecting the culture and values of the country. Then came 1909, a turning point. That was the year President Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the penny, marking the centennial of his birth. It was the first time a real historical figure was placed on a U.S. coin. His profile, carved by Victor David Brenner, became iconic. And from that point forward, the penny was no longer just change, it was a piece of history. By the time we reached 1975, the Lincoln cent had already been in circulation for over 65 years. The wheat ears on the back had been replaced with the Lincoln Memorial in 1959, giving the coin a new identity that still honored its legacy. But now, let's shift our focus to the year 1975, and specifically, to the version stamped with a tiny D. That little D underneath the date? It means the coin was minted in Denver, Colorado. Mint marks tell us where a coin was made, and that single letter can make a world of difference. In 1975, Lincoln pennies were struck in Philadelphia, no mint mark, San Francisco, with an S for proof coins, and Denver, with a D. The D mint mark makes the 1975 D penny part of the Denver Mint's production, one of the busiest mints in the country. And even though millions were made, not all 1975 D pennies are created equal. Why? Because errors happen, coins are struck by powerful machines at lightning speed, and sometimes, mistakes slip through. These minting errors are what turn a regular penny into a collector's dream. Let's explore some of the rare varieties of the 1975 D penny that you should be on the lookout for. One of the most sought-after errors is the doubled die, where parts of the design, especially the lettering or the date, appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the die. If you ever spot a 1975 D penny where the words Liberty or In God We Trust look blurry or appear doubled, hold on to it. You might just have a rare variety in your hand. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin is stamped too far to one side, leaving part of the design missing. The more off-center the strike, especially while keeping the date visible, the higher the value. Some 1975 D pennies have been found with die cracks, tiny raised lines caused by damaged or overused dies. Others have struck through errors, where objects like thread, wire, or grease got in the way during minting, leaving behind strange, fascinating marks. The date on a penny is another key to unlocking its secrets. 1975 was a time of high inflation, and copper prices were climbing. That's important, because pre-1982 pennies, like the one from 1975, were made of 95% copper. Just the metal content alone makes them more valuable than face value. But beyond the composition, the date helps us place the coin in the broader historical context. In the mid-1970s, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with new materials and adjusting coin production strategies. That means transitional errors, coins accidentally struck on blanks meant for other denominations or years, can exist, and if you spot one of those, you're looking at a coin worth far more than just a cent. Now let's talk about the future of the penny, and why coins like the 1975 D may only grow more valuable with time. There's been a lot of talk in recent years about phasing out the penny. Critics say it costs more to make than it's worth, and many people barely use it anymore. But for collectors, that just adds fuel to the fire. If the penny disappears, it becomes a relic, a collectible, a piece of history no longer being made, and that kind of scarcity drives demand. Already, collectors are snapping up high-grade and era pennies from the 1970s. The Denver Mint's coins from 1975, in particular, have become favorites due to their clarity, classic copper composition, and potential for rare variations. So before you toss that 1975 D penny into a jar, give it another look. That coin could be your ticket to something far more valuable, And speaking of value, some rare 1975 D Lincoln cents have fetched impressive amounts at auctions. Depending on condition, rarity, and the presence of errors, a single penny could be worth anywhere from $4,200 all the way up to $58,000. Not bad for a coin most people overlook. So check your change, dig through those old coin jars, and see if you have a forgotten 1975 D penny hiding in plain sight. Because in the world of coin collecting, the smallest coins can carry the biggest surprises. If you found this video fascinating, hit like, share it with a fellow coin lover, and subscribe for more deep dives into American coin history. There's always another penny waiting to tell its story. Number 6. At first glance, the 1981 D penny may seem like just another Lincoln cent, the kind you'd find in your pocket, at the bottom of a drawer, or mixed in with loose change. But what if I told you that one of these ordinary-looking coins could actually be worth thousands of dollars? Today, we're digging into the surprising and fascinating world of the 1981 D Lincoln penny, from its origins to its secret varieties, from what makes it collectible to how much it might be worth. So if you're a coin collector, a history lover, or just someone curious about what treasures might be hiding in your spare change, this video is for you. Let's start by turning back the clock. The 1-cent coin has been part of American life since the 18th century. First issued in 1793, the penny has evolved from a large, bulky copper coin into the small, everyday piece we know today. Over time, it has changed in size, design, and even its metal composition. But one thing has remained constant. The penny reflects the times in which it was made. That became even more true in 1909, the year President Abraham Lincoln first appeared on the U.S. cent designed by sculptor Victor David Brenner. The Lincoln penny broke tradition as the first coin to feature an actual historical figure. It was a bold move that turned the penny into something more than money. It became a symbol of national pride and remembrance. Fast forward to 1981. America was navigating economic challenges. Inflation was rising, and the price of copper was climbing fast. The U.S. Mint was looking for solutions, and the humble penny was at the center of it all. Now let's zoom in on the 1981 D penny. That tiny D below the date? It means the coin was minted in Denver, Colorado. Mint marks are small but mighty. They tell us exactly where a coin was struck. In 1981, Lincoln cents were produced at the Philadelphia Mint, with no mint mark, the San Francisco Mint, for proof coins, and the Denver Mint, marked with a D. Collectors pay close attention to mint marks because they can make a huge difference in a coin's rarity and value. Here's where things get interesting. In 1981, the U.S. Mint was on the verge of a major change. Just 1 year later, in 1982, pennies would shift from being 95% copper to being made primarily of zinc, coated in copper. Why? Because copper had become too expensive. But in 1981, the coins were still solid copper, and that alone gives them an edge in value. But wait, there's more. Some 1981 D pennies contain rare errors and varieties that make them especially valuable to collectors. One of the most sought after is the doubled die variety, where the lettering or numbers appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the minting process. These varieties are rare, but if you find one, it could be worth far more than face value. Then there are off-center strikes, coins that were not properly aligned when struck, resulting in a lopsided design. The more off-center the coin is, while still showing the full date, the higher its value. Another rare find? Die cracks, small raised lines on the coin's surface caused by worn-out minting equipment. And if your 1981 D penny looks like it has an unusual texture, missing details, or strange imprints, it might be a struck-through error, caused when foreign materials interfered with the minting process. Collectors are always looking for these rare varieties. And if you know what to look for, you might spot one in your change. Now let's talk about the date, 1981. The last full year the Lincoln cent was made of almost pure copper. This gives the coin added appeal, especially for collectors who prefer pre-1982 cents. The date is also significant because of how it ties to changes in U.S. coin production and the rising cost of materials. The 1981 D penny represents the end of an era, and that historical context can make even an ordinary-looking cent stand out. But what does the future hold for the penny? There's been talk for years about eliminating the penny altogether. Critics say it's outdated, inefficient, and costs more to make than it's worth. But for collectors, those arguments make the penny even more intriguing. If the penny is ever discontinued, its collectible value could skyrocket. Coins like the 1981D, already desirable because of their copper composition and potential errors, would likely become even more valuable over time. And that brings us to the question everyone wants answered: how much is it worth? Well, a typical 1981D penny is still worth 1 cent. Unless it's in uncirculated condition, or contains a rare error. Some high-grade, mint-state 1981D Lincoln cents have sold for as much as $2,800, and in rare cases with extraordinary errors, prices have reached up to $48,000 at auction. So the next time you spot a 1981D penny, don't toss it aside. Examine it. Look closely at the mint mark. Check for doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual features. That little copper coin could be holding a big secret. If you enjoyed this video and want to discover more stories behind America's rare coins, hit like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow coin lovers. Because in the world of coin collecting, even the smallest treasures can unlock the biggest surprises. Number 7. What if we told you that a simple penny in your pocket could lead you straight into the heart of one of the most intriguing stories in modern American coin history? Today, we're exploring the 1982D Lincoln penny, a coin that may look ordinary, but carries a weighty story. A story of transition, rarity, and hidden treasure. This is not just about a coin. It's about a year when everything changed in the world of pennies. But before we dig into the secrets of 1982, let's take a quick journey back through the penny's remarkable past. The 1-cent coin has been a part of the American story since 1793. Over 2 centuries, it has evolved through different shapes, sizes, materials, and designs. Yet it's the Lincoln cent, first minted in 1909, that has stood the test of time and captured the hearts of collectors. Created to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, the Lincoln cent was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person, a bold departure from classical figures and symbolism. Sculptor Victor D. Brenner's portrait of Lincoln gave the penny a human touch, and since then, it has become one of the most recognized coins in the world. Now, let's fast forward to the early 1980s. America was facing rising metal prices, especially copper. At the time, each Lincoln cent was made of 95% copper, which meant it actually cost more to produce a penny than it was worth. Something had to give. In 1982, the U.S. Mint made a historic decision to shift the penny's composition from solid copper to a new, cost-saving metal, zinc, with just a thin copper coating. But this change didn't happen overnight. It happened during the year. And that's what makes the 1982 pennies so fascinating. There are 7 different varieties of the 1982 penny, and one of the most talked about is the 1982D penny. That tiny D below the date tells us it was minted in Denver, Colorado. Mint marks help collectors trace a coin's origin, and in this case, it also helps identify a massive historical transition. In 1982, both copper and zinc pennies were being struck at the same time, including at the Denver Mint. That means some 1982D pennies are copper, and some are zinc. And here's the wild part: unless you weigh them, they look almost exactly the same. A copper penny from 1982 weighs 3.11 grams. A zinc penny? Just 2.5 grams. That tiny difference has created one of the biggest coin hunts in modern numismatic history. But there's more. For years, it was believed that no 1982D small-date copper pennies existed. That specific combination, the small-date font used in 1982, the Denver Mint mark, and the heavier copper composition, wasn't supposed to happen. Then, in 2016, a small number were discovered. Genuine. Verified. And suddenly, the 1982D small-date copper penny became one of the rarest modern coins in existence. That's the magic of mint marks, and why collectors pay close attention to where and how coins were produced. Now let's talk about varieties. In 1982, errors and mix-ups were common. There are large date and small date designs. There are copper coins and zinc coins. Some coins were struck off-center. Some have double dies, where the letters and numbers appear doubled due to misalignment during minting. Each of these varieties tells a different story and carries a different value. Collectors are trained to spot these differences, subtle changes in the font, shifts in design details, and the all-important weight test. A 1982 penny with the right features could be worth far more than 1 cent. Now, look at that date, 1982. It marks the turning point in penny production. It's a date that's split between old and new, between copper and zinc, between tradition and cost-cutting. It's not just a year, it's a code that reveals what's hidden beneath the surface. And that brings us to the big question: what does the future hold for the penny? For years, economists and lawmakers have debated whether the penny still has a place in our pockets. It's often called outdated, unnecessary, even wasteful. But for collectors? That's great news, because the more rare a coin becomes, the more valuable it gets. Especially coins like the 1982 caught in the middle of a once-in-a-lifetime change. So, if you find one in a jar, a drawer, or your pocket, don't ignore it, check the mint mark. Weigh it if you can. Look for doubling, cracks, or striking errors. It could be one of the rarest coins of the modern era, and here's the part you've been waiting for. While most 1982 pennies are still worth 1 cent, a rare error or variety in pristine condition can sell for $2,700, and in extraordinary cases, a single coin has fetched up to $45,000 at auction. So next time you see a 1982 penny, remember, it's not just a coin. It's a key to history. A piece of a major turning point in American money. And maybe, just maybe, a tiny copper-covered treasure. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and share with fellow collectors. Because in the world of coin collecting, the smallest coins often carry the biggest secrets.